This is a true story.
Marshall stars Chadwick Boseman as Thurgood Marshall, the first black Supreme Court justice, in one of his earlier cases that helped to define his eventual career in civil rights cases. This particular case had to do with claimed rape of a white woman after she said that her black chauffeur took advantage of her and tried to kill her. But Thurgood, being in an NAACP, his mission was to prove the innocence of black people that were indeed innocent. He didn't just go around doing every single case. He's famous for his civil rights legal cases and going against the Supreme Court several times throughout his life before he was appointed Supreme Court Justice. While they claim that this is one of the career-defining cases of his life, I have to disagree because this really isn't so much of a Thurgood Marshall movie as it is a Sam Friedman movie. He's not allowed to speak, so Sam Friedman speaks for him. For the majority of the movie, he's mostly just sitting there. You know he cares about the case. You see him figuring everything out and being the brains behind the whole operation. But I don't really consider this a Thurgood Marshall story, because in the very beginning you see one of his closing arguments for another case that he's working on, and you like that. You like what he's doing there. He makes a good presentation. He makes a good presence all in general, and you want to see more of that in this case that the movie is eventually gonna see. But it's mostly just this Friedman character played by Josh Gad. Let's break that down. Starting off with the people category, we start off with the acting, and yes, everybody does a great job with the acting. Again, I don't think Josh Gad was right for the role, and he doesn't have the hugest range of emotions in the movie, I don't really consider, but everybody else does great, and all the acting is really wonderful from all the standpoints. You really do get sucked into what's going on in the movie, and if you're not familiar with the case, you really want to know how it all comes down. So acting gets 2 out of 2 possible stars. Characters, yes, you're going to remember this movie specifically for the characters that are on display. Thurgood Marshall, there's something about how Chadwick plays him that's actually really well done, and you're not seeing him as any of the other roles he's played in the past, including Black Panther. You see him as this completely transformable, actual, real person, and the way that he is displayed is great. The judge is ridiculous. Prosecuting attorney is a dirtbag. Characters gets 2. Casting, a lot of the cast did a great job, especially Thurgood Marshall with Chadwick Boseman, but Josh Gad I wasn't a big fan of, and when it really comes down to it, pretty much anybody could have played these roles. Not so much Thurgood Marshall. That was right. That was the perfect casting choice. Everybody else could have probably been played by anybody else, in my opinion. 1. Importance of the characters, I gotta say, it's a court trial. Of course, the characters play an important role. Defense, prosecution, the victim, the accused, everybody is contributing to the mystery surrounding what actually happened or didn't happen. 2 stars. Chemistry, I think for the most part, chemistry wasn't as strong as it probably could have been, and I think a big part of that has to do with Josh Gad, because the chemistry that they're trying for has something to do with Thurgood Marshall and Sam Friedman, and how they interact together, and how they become friends and co-lawyers. The fact that I wasn't the biggest fan of Sam Friedman, and because I couldn't really get into his character, prevented me from really feeling that chemistry between the two, and that's really where most of the chemistry lies. So, 1. Writing score! Here's where the movie really did well. As a court drama, but not only that, but also as a civil rights movie, dialogue was a huge part of the success of what you were watching in the first place. Just the way that Thurgood speaks, as well as his brilliance and knowledge on the case and his emotional connection to everything is perfect. Dialogue gets 2. It is a very balanced movie. Of course, it's just a court trial that goes through everything, right? Through the jury selection, through the testimonies, through the verdict, and through everything. It's just one 1 solid trial. 2. The story itself, of course, whenever you're dealing with civil rights or black rights or whatever you want to call it, there is definitely something deep and meaningful about it, something important that needs to be told, to be remembered, and of course, the story gets 2 out of 2. Do I consider original? Yeah, I mean, of course there's been a lot of different legal dramas, legal thrillers, John Grisham, but Thurgood Marshall was famous for his civil rights legal action specifically, so that gets 2. Is it an interesting movie? Yes, I was interested in seeing it specifically with the legal drama aspect. I have a criminal justice degree, so that always interested me. I've read most of John Grisham's books and blah-de-blah-de-blah, but that's what interested me to see the movie, and while I watched it, I was sucked in more to what was actually happening in the film, so interesting gets 2 out of 2 as well. Yes. Nothing fancy here. The visuals are pretty much what you would expect for a legal drama. There's some interesting things used with light specifically, like when they're talking to the jury panel and the lights from the window are seen through shadows on the lawyers' faces. That's kind of cool. But other than that, I can't really say the whole thing really felt amazing with the visuals. I'll only give that 1. Directing, I don't know. I can't really say the director had a huge challenge in front of him. Pretty much anybody could have really directed it, so I'll only give that 1. Same can kind of be said about the editing, so that only gets 1. Advertisement, I will say, because I felt like the movie should be more Thurgood Marshall for a movie called Marshall, it felt a little falsely advertised. Yes, he's in it. Yes, he plays an important role in it. I feel like the movie has more of an important focus on Sam Friedman, and so the movie should instead be called Friedman. It's only a small, trivial complaint, so with advertisement, I will just dock it a little bit and say 1 as well. Music was pretty much what you would expect for the time frame of what everything's happening here. A lot of jazzy, calm music that's going on, which is fine, but nothing I'd really listen to again, so 1. The narrative arc score. This also has a pretty good narrative structure all around. The introduction gets you acquainted with who Thurgood Marshall is as well as who Sam Friedman is and how they see things as a whole, see things eye to eye even though they are different people. Introduction gets 2 out of 2. The inciting incident is basically when they're both put on this case. Sam Friedman doesn't know what the heck to do because he's never done anything criminal in his life before. He's just done like taxes and stuff like that. Thurgood Marshall knows what he's doing, but he's not allowed to speak, so they're kind of both stuck in a rut, and that's the inciting incident. It gets 2 out of 2. The obstacles, of course, it's a court of law. Both sides are fighting back and forth together. 2 out of 2. Climax, what do you really expect? That's mostly closing arguments and verdict and things like that. 2 out of 2. Falling action, does it calm down and return to a new norm? This is one of those moments because it's a true story where it shows you all the text on the screen about what they do later in life. That's kind of the new norm because it's not how a normal movie would do it, I would say. I only have to give that 1. Entertainment score! With rewatchability, I don't think I would seriously think about rewatching it if I saw that it was on TV or a friend wanted to watch it or in that area. I would probably rewatch it, but I can't really see myself going out and trying to find it in order to watch it. So with that, I'll give it 1. Do I consider a fun experience? I'm into legal dramas and things like that. How I see legal dramas isn't necessarily how everybody else sees them. I have to at least consider the fact that other people would probably think some of this movie's boring. I'll also give that 1. Do I have an impulse to buy this? No, I don't think it's one of those movies. Like, I don't think I would go out and buy it. I also don't feel like I would add it to a wish list or anything like that. Because of that, I'm gonna have to only give that 0. Impulse to talk about it other than this review? No, I don't think so. I think I've pretty much covered it all here. I don't feel like I should rush off to somebody say, you gotta see this movie, you gotta see this movie, because it's just not that kind of movie, so 0. Does it suck the audience in? Kind of like with the fun element, it sucked me in, but for others it might seem boring. Some people might feel like watching something else instead. Once again, I only have to give that 1. Specialty category. Drama, which indeed this movie is very dramatic, sometimes emotional in some regards, so definitely 10 out of 10 for that. As a biographical true story, did a pretty good job of not only telling what happened in the case, but also kind of showing you who Thurgood Marshall is, regardless of the fact, like, this is way before his big cases that he's definitely known for. that he's still the same man. For that, I'll give 10 out of 10. How about the concept of civil rights? Like I said before, pretty good case that I hadn't heard before and still feels as relevant and as important to some things that happened in today's terms. So I'll give that 10 out of 10 possible stars. Thurgood Marshall. Is this a Thurgood Marshall movie? Like I was saying with the advertisement, I feel like it's more of a Friedman movie, so I'll give that half points to say 5 out of 10. And was this halfway decent? Absolutely. What they were trying to go for when they made this movie, they definitely had no problems there, so 10 out of 10. If we add all that together, we get 80 out of 100 possible stars, 80%, which means this was a pretty good movie. I'm not usually fond of biographical true story films for whatever reason, and this one was done pretty well in my opinion. Guys, tell me what you thought about Marshall in the comments down below. Follow me on track.tv and Twitter at the username IAMDWG. Head over to my website, daveexamensmovies.com, to see my end of the year movie awards for 2017. Those are up right now. And for YouTube, you know you can subscribe to me, hit that like button, and hit that bell to be notified when I come out with my next movie review, which will be next week with Mark Felt. So until then, guys, peace out and have a good Friday.